Hello, second graders, and welcome to the second part of our math lesson for today. So in this video, we're going to be doing a couple more activities with using a ruler to measure objects. So if you remember, the essential question for this lesson today is, why is using a ruler similar to using a row of colored tiles to measure length? So hopefully you have a better understanding of the answer to that question. So we're going to start off in this activity by using colored tiles and make the given length, and then trace along the edge to show the length. So we're not going to actually, you know what, we could trace the edge of the length, so we're going to do that. So what we're going to start off by doing is we're given a few lengths. We have 4 inches, 2 inches, and 3 inches. So what I want to do for each one, I'm going to use color tiles to represent those lengths. So I'm going to use the tiles to make 4 inches first. Okay, and remember, each tile is about 1 inch in length. So if we have 4 tiles, then that should make 4 inches. And remember, when we put the tiles together, we want to make sure there's no spaces. Okay, and so I got my 3 there, and then 4. Okay, so this is just kind of like a little warm-up that we kind of already know how to do, but just to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a refresher. And then I'm going to do my best to try and draw around the tiles to kind of show the length as a whole. There, so there's 4 inches right there. Now let's try 2 inches. So with 2 inches, we're going to need 2 tiles because each tile is 1 inch. So there is our 2 inches. And I'm going to trace around this one best I can. Not going to be perfectly straight lines, but that's okay. We're going to do our best. So there is our 2 inches, and then lastly our 3 inches. So in order to make 3 inches, I'm going to use 3 color tiles. Okay, and I got a little space in between there, so I'm just going to fix that a little bit. And then I'm going to trace my 3 inches right here. And so this is kind of how we've been measuring things so far in this math lesson, right? We've been finding 1 inch objects or 1 inch tools that we've been using to measure other objects. And so tiles are just, again, another 1 inch tool that you can use if you have them. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to use those color tiles because, again, they're 1 inch in length, and we're going to use them to make a ruler. So to make a ruler, if you don't have a ruler at home, you can totally make one if you have a piece of paper and any kind of 1 inch tool. So you all should have a 1 inch tool because that's how you've been measuring stuff all week, last week I mean. And so all you need to do to make your own ruler is just a piece of paper, and you might want to get some crayons too to kind of color in the spaces in your ruler. So it says use a color tile to make a ruler on a paper strip. Color 6 parts that are each about 1 inch long. So what you can do, or we'll talk about how to use your ruler, but first how to make it. So let's say, my 1 inch tool is a tile, right? So you simply kind of just do exactly what we did in the last activity, and you put 1 tile on the paper, and you're going to make a line first. So you're going to draw a line on the ruler. Then you're going to use whatever 1 inch tool you chose to use. You're going to put it right on the edge of that line. And then what you're going to do is, once you do that, you're going to take a pencil and you're going to draw another line at the other edge of the 1 inch tool. And then once you do that, you should have 2 lines with 1 inch in space between them. And then what you can do is you can take the object and then draw another line just like this. And then once you do that, you move the object so that the other edge is kind of lined up with the line that you just drew. And now you can make another line. And you can keep going and doing that. Okay, so that's kind of how you can make your ruler. And then once you have all the lines that you want to add onto your ruler, you can color in the spaces different colors. So if you see on this ruler, it's green, red, green, red. So that shows you the inches. So 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. Okay? And so how to use your ruler, you would line up the left edge of an object with the first mark. So if this was the object that you were measuring, you would kind of measure it like this. Okay? So that's just kind of how you can make your own ruler and how you can use any kind of ruler, whether it's the one that you made or if it's one that you already have at home. That's how you kind of use your ruler. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into some activities and we're going to measure some objects with a ruler. Okay, so it says measure each length with the ruler, count the inches. So here's my ruler. So I'm going to take this ruler and I'm going to line it up with the edge of my object, just like how you see right here. And then it lines up kind of almost with the other edge of the ruler. So now I'm going to count all of the spaces in between these lines right here and these lines. Okay? So we have 1 space, 2, 3, and 4. And I know that each space is 1 inch in length. So if I have 4, then that means that this object up here is 4 inches. Okay? Cool. Let's take the next object. So we're going to line up my ruler, and we're going to see that the lines are pretty even and pretty accurate. And now we're going to count these spaces in between those 2 sets of lines. So we have 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches. So this object is 3 inches long. And then our last object that we're going to do on this page is a chain that seems pretty long. So here are our lines, right? Again, I match up my first line on my ruler with the very end of the chain, and then I take this line with the other end of the object. And now we're going to count the spaces in between. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this object we know is 5 inches. Okay? Now we got some real objects here. So it looks like we got a piece of string or a piece of yarn as our first object. So I'm going to take my ruler again, and I'm going to line up the lines, and then I'm going to count the spaces in between this line and this line. So we have 1, 2, 3. So this object, this piece of string or yarn, is 3 inches long. Now we have a thermometer. So we're going to line up the first lines, and it's not totally accurate over here, but that's why, again, we say about, right? So now let's count up the spaces in between the first line here and the last line over here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have about 4 inches is that thermometer. Okay? And then our last object that we're going to measure. Battery on my computer is getting a little bit low. So we're going to measure that last piece, that last item, which is the paintbrush. So we got my ruler lined up, and now we're going to count the spaces in between both lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this paintbrush is 6 inches long. Okay? So it's very easy to measure objects with a ruler. All you'd have to do is just remember to line up the very, very beginning of the object with the very first line of the ruler, and then count the spaces in between until you get to the very, very end of the object. Okay? So we're just going to do a couple more. So it says measure the length with the ruler and count the inches. So we're going to grab our ruler. We're going to measure this green highlighter. Okay? And so this one goes a little bit longer than this line. So we're going to kind of say it's about this many. We're going to stop right here at this green space. Okay? So we're going to count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to say that this object is about 5 inches. It's a little bit more than 5 inches, but it's not 6, because 6 would be all the way down here. So we're just going to say that it's about 5 inches. It's a little bit more than 5, but pretty close to 5. Okay? And then this last object here. Alright? So I'm not even really sure what that is, but we're going to measure it anyway because it looks cool. So we got 1, 2, and that's it. So this object, whatever it is 2 inches long. Awesome. Now, our last kind of activity that we're going to do, it says use 2 rulers to help you measure the length of the string. Count the inches. All right, so we're going to give this a try. So we're going to bring one ruler over here, and we're going to line it up. Actually, you know what? We're going to start with this ruler. So like this one. Okay, we're going to line up that first part of the string with the very first line in our ruler. And you can see that this string is longer than 1 ruler. So we're going to have to use 2 rulers. So I'm going to put it kind of like that. Okay? And now let's count to see how long this piece of string actually is. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just about 9. A little less than 9 inches, but just about, almost. So this string is about 9 inches long. Okay? So if you notice that you have an object that is longer than 1 ruler that you have, use another one. Maybe make 2 rulers today instead of just 1. So that way if you do have objects that are longer than 1 ruler, you have another ruler to help you measure that object. Okay? So, and again, they're really easy to make. Just use paper, pencil, a 1-inch tool, and maybe, if you want to, some crayons to kind of color those spaces, so that way you know. Okay? All right, so our last question of the day says, use the ruler. What is the best choice for the length of this piece of yarn? Okay, so we see that the ruler is lined up with the beginning of the yarn, and the ending of the yarn also lines up with another line on our ruler. So we should get like an exact measurement. Okay, so now let's count how many spaces there are in between the beginning line and the ending line. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So we can say that this piece of yarn is about 3 inches long. So D is going to be our correct answer. Okay, everybody? So hopefully that helped you a little bit more in understanding how to use a ruler to measure objects. And now I think you guys are good to go on Think Central, so you can sign in to Think Central and complete the assignment for 8.2 and use those rulers on the assignment to help you measure the objects. Okay, everybody? And hopefully this video was helpful to you, and can't wait to see how great you do on your assignment for 8.2 today. All right? Thank you so much, and good luck on your math homework.